Am I the asshole for asking my husband if he is a sexist? So, I'm 24 female and my husband is 31 male. We both make pretty good money, but he always makes more because he's 10 years out of college and I'm only 3 years out. For the first time this past year, I actually brought in more income than he did. When I got my W-2 in the mail early this year, his had already come in the mail, so he knew what he earned. I looked at my earnings and was shocked, and I guess it was because of all of the overtime that I'd done in 2020, but I was still proud of myself. When I showed him, he was pretty speechless, but it didn't seem like it was in a happy way. He calmly said, "That's awesome, babe." In the moment, a little voice in my head was telling me that he felt a pang of jealousy or competitiveness, but he didn't seem like he wanted to keep talking about that subject, so I just dropped it. Just recently, we're now in June, we were talking about our marriage and money. He actually brought up that it initially upset him that I made more than him last year. He didn't really explain himself, just said that it didn't sit right with him. But after further reflection, he realizes it's not a competition. I'm over here scratching my head thinking, but why was that a problem for you in the first place? I would be thrilled if my wife brought in good money, especially 3 years out of school. It actually really upset me that he would ever have initially viewed this as a competition. I asked him, "Why would that upset you? Do you not think women should make more money than their husbands?" And he replied with, "Don't try to make me out to be a sexist." And without batting an eye, I responded with, "Well, are you?" And he flipped out and started saying that he couldn't believe I was accusing him of being a sexist when I know him. I wasn't trying to say he was a sexist, I was trying to get him to see how bad this looked. Instead, he just got defensive and has been very cold to me since. I guess I could see why he was offended because no one wants to be accused of such a horrible thing by their spouse. But I feel I have a right to ask that question, considering what happened. So, am I the asshole? Edit. To be fair, I did not accuse him of being sexist. He used the word. I asked the question, "Are you?" after he already used the word when he said, "Don't accuse me of being a sexist." I did not attack him and say, "You are sexist." I should have worded my response differently, but I admit I was pretty hurt. Another edit. At the time I told him how much I made, I didn't know how much he had made. His W-2 only came in the mail a few days before mine, and we didn't discuss it. So I wasn't trying to brag. I was just really proud of myself. And before I get to my opinion or the comments, I'm going to read the update to this situation that's also provided. So I posted it below, but I wanted to make sure everyone sees. We just talked and he told me that he felt that way because he didn't want to feel like I had more power in the marriage. I asked him what was making him feel like money was a power thing. And he said that he feels intimidated by a female owning the finances because that gives her power over her husband. He said he always saw himself running the finances in his future family. I guess the question I asked in my head was, "So you thought you had power over me before and wanted to keep it that way?" But I took the advice of some of you and just kept it to myself because you're all right. He did do some reflection and it was big of him to admit. I'm just sad that he really did mean it as a power thing. I appreciate everyone's feedback though, and accept that I may have provoked him with the way that I came at him. To be fair, yeah, there is elements there of the way that you came at him could have been accusatory, but I feel like you're just responding to the stimuli that you were given. He gave you one response that, it's not normal for him to respond in that way, so obviously you're gonna respond in kind. I feel like responding in a different way would be brushing the situation off. You just wanted to get an answer right here, right now, about what he meant by that. I can see how asking someone, "Well, are you?" when they bring something up like that, it's like, well, no, I'm not a racist, but, well, are you? That can definitely be something that's very accusatory, out of left field, you don't expect it. I can see why someone would get angry with that. But I imagine she was reading his body language more than just the words coming out of his mouth. And you can tell a lot about a person and what they're thinking when you ask them these questions. And you see those responses. I'm gonna go not the asshole for this one. Yes, this is a tiff, but these two are married and they should be able to trust each other to be honest with their responses. But I'm also glad that he did some self-reflection and realized that he wanted power and he wanted power over her through the finances. So props to him for changing. Now in the comments, Outpan says, read the update, not the asshole. Please do not keep that to yourself. That is such a gross and disrespectful take on your marriage and is most definitely sexist. Don't protect his fragile masculinity like that. Call him out, if it is safe for you to do so. And Tergiver Sensation says, not the asshole. And regarding your update, I think the best thing for the time being is to let it go, like you did. But I also think it would be a good idea to bring it up at a later date, when you feel you can both be calm and rational about it. You were right that the fact that he thought through it is a really good thing. It's hard to come to grips with things that you've just internalized. I think this particular argument came to a good conclusion, but it would also be a good idea to have the whole income equals power discussion in the future. Sage Hamichi says, not the asshole. He felt that way because he didn't want to feel like I had more power in the marriage. So he is sexist. Wow. First step is to acknowledge it, I guess. Curious Bird 45 says, hey, reading your update. It's scary that was a power play and a red flag. You really ought to get counseling, not the a-hole, and I hope things work out for you. And Go Screw Yourself Reader says, you're the asshole, he brought it up and agreed that it was stupid and selfish, but you on the other hand attacked him. I don't think it's sexism. It's likely his parents taught him some crap like men should be breadwinners. That is sexist, but I'll explain why he isn't. So he likely had it instilled into him that he should be making the lion's share. If he truly was sexist, he'd be much more open about it. This just sounds like an example of the wrong upbringings. You ever just read a comment and you just wonder, how are people this dense in the head? I think this is one of those times. That's just such a weird take. And Let It Be 27 says, I may have provoked him. Sounds like an abused woman's words. I'm not saying he's abusive at this point, but any woman saying that alarms me. And I do think he has sexist tendencies based on this story, and I'd keep an eye out on that before things get out of hand. I hope I'm wrong and this is never an issue again, but it's impossible to know every little thing that makes up a person's mind and dictates their behavior without knowing them personally, and sometimes not even then. This is just a plea to be vigilant. So what do you guys think of that one? That's very weird. There's always one weird comment, isn't there? Our next post is by user ClearAngus7, titled, Am I the asshole for not paying for gifts and necessities for my stepson anymore? So my stepson is a very rude person. He actively is rude to everyone, including his mum. He hates me, and it's pretty obvious, but I really try to show that it doesn't bother me. He worships his dad. He tried to get them back together when they separated, but it didn't work out. I met his mum during the divorce, but I didn't start dating her until the divorce was finalized. Her dad isn't very well off, as he doesn't have a job, and now he's struggling. He's dating multiple women at the same time, and taking as much money as he can from them, which is how he affords to buy my stepson gifts. My stepson believes that his dad gets the money from his imaginary company that he has. His dad once got his friend to pretend to be an employee, but my stepson threatened to get him fired if he didn't do his every wish. His friend eventually got fed up and left. So my stepson is 14 and doesn't even know the name of the company. Once I got my stepson all kinds of gifts for his birthday, and he asked me how much his dad gave me to buy these gifts and say I bought them. I got fed up and told him that his dad is a major fraud and that his company doesn't even exist. He just got mad and went to his dad's. His dad said that I was lying, of course, and I've told my wife that I refuse to pay for anything that he needs or wants anymore. She told me I can't stop paying for his necessities, but I said that I could, since his dad could pay for them using the money he got from his company. My wife is now saying that I need to stop acting like a child and that I'm a petty asshole. Am I the asshole in this instance? OP has offered the following explanation for why they think they might be the asshole. I might be the asshole because his dad could refuse to pay for his necessities, and if he does, the only person who would be paying for him is his mother. Yo, what? This situation is actually kind of crazy. Why wasn't this sorted out sooner? Like, you let it get to this point where the son genuinely believes in this false reality, and you didn't just crush it from the start when there was no repercussions for crushing these delusions. I'd say it's somewhat both in your wife's fault for not stopping it before it got to this point, but regardless, I don't think you're the asshole for not condoning this behavior any further. It's fine for you not to pay for any luxuries and only to pay for the necessities for the child. I think that's fine. If he's not going to respect you, why should you respect him? Not the asshole. Now in the comments, Elizabeth Janet says, "Do you pay for the roof over the boy's head and food that he eats? Then you're already paying for his necessities. I don't blame you for being angry, but your wife needs to step in, and since she won't, you have to do what you have to do." But like, why isn't his mother paying for those things? She doesn't work either? Well, I guess she needs a job to pay for her own kid. Saluki Queen says, "It sounds like your stepson needs some serious parenting right now, but the solution to that isn't to act just like him. He's 14 and being manipulated by his dad. What's your excuse? Of course, don't get him extras if he's being rude to you, but his necessities like food, clothing, etc. should never be negotiable. You and his mum need to step up and help him be better. It's tough as hell, but you are his parents. Everyone sucks here except your wife, because I don't have enough info on her involvement to give a judgment on her." I think wife's an asshole too. Why doesn't she do something about her kid? You said he's 14 and being manipulated by his dad? We're cutting this kid a lot of slack in our comments because he's 14 and grappling with everything that comes along with that while dealing with his mum and dad splitting up. But one thing I thought was telling in OP's story is that when the bio dad introduced a fake employee to try to look like a big shot, the kid immediately seized onto the perceived power dynamic there to try to bully and push around a grown man. I could look past some resentment at the stepdad as understandable given the kid's age and the circumstances, but the way he behaved with his dad's employee makes me think that this kid has major issues that go beyond the typical coping with divorce/stepdad scenario. I don't know what the answer is. Therapy, I guess, but it sounds like there is some fundamental nastiness there that may be hard to root out. Good luck with this kid, OP. And Water Lily A says, "Not the asshole. And your wife should have intervened long ago. She can't require you to buy her son anything and continue to actively ignore this child as he's rude and disrespectful to you both. This is her kid, so she maybe can't understand the feelings that you're going through because she will view every scenario with much more love and grace towards her kid. I suggest family counseling." Am I the asshole for telling my girlfriend I'd like her to dress up more when we go out? So I, 32 male, began dating my girlfriend, 26 female, in February of last year. Just a few weeks later, we went into lockdown, so we did not go out many places before we had to have all of our dates at our houses. In July, we moved in together. She works from home, so she wears joggers or yoga pants and big hoodies or sweaters all day, which is fine. However, now that restrictions in our area are beginning to lift, we're going out more, and she's still wearing what I consider loungewear to go out. We went out to a nice restaurant with our friends, and everybody was dressed semi-formal, and my girlfriend was wearing leggings with a hole in them and a sweater with a stain on it. She also dresses in these sorts of clothes for dinners with my family. Now I tried to be subtle and offered to take her clothes shopping, but she said no. So I was a bit more direct and told her we should get some nice clothes for her to go out in, and again, she said no. So I finally had to tell her that I felt uncomfortable and slightly embarrassed when we go out, and her attire didn't match what was appropriate for the venue. I made sure to tell her that I don't mind her wearing yoga pants, joggers and hoodies, but when she went out, she should try and look a bit more presentable. She began screaming at me and told me that if I was so embarrassed by her, I didn't have to take her anyway. She even went as far as to tell me that I should just sleep with my best friend's girlfriend if I found her so disgusting. I never wanted to insult her personally. I just wanted to suggest that she saves the comfy clothes for home and dress up a little when we go out in public. Am I the asshole? And edit to add, she does not have anger issues. Her response to this was incredibly off character for her, which is why I was asking if I was the a-hole here. OP has offered the following explanation for why they think they might be the asshole. Because I clearly hurt her feelings and made her feel as though she herself is inadequate, which is not the case. To be honest, I think it's fair for you to ask her to wear something appropriate in a dinner setting like this where everyone else is semi-casual. I don't think you're particularly an asshole for pointing that out. I think you're doing your due diligence as a partner and being like, do you realize the way you're dressing isn't appropriate for the social setting? This isn't you being like, you have to do this or else, you know? This is like, do you not see this? Do you not see what's going on here? I feel like you came at it in a respectful manner. Maybe you did hurt her feelings, and maybe you did make her feel as though she was inadequate. And we always know that the road to hell is paved with good intentions, but maybe this is just a moment of self-realization for her that will lead to change for the better. I'm going not the asshole. Now in the comments, TN Scatterbrain says, not the asshole. I'm all for comfort and bodily autonomy. I love leggings and yoga pants, but you generally don't wear stuff with holes or stains when everyone else is dressing up unless you have no choice. Unless there is an actual dress code, comfort casual is okay, but it seems like she's taking it a bit far. But there's never a great way to tell someone this. I wonder if she's gained weight during quarantine, and so her nicer clothes don't fit anymore, and that's why she got so upset. She's probably super insecure about it. This is me. I am terrified of trying on my nicer clothes for summer 2021, as I started busting out of them in the summer 2020 after the first lockdown. Yup, I tried to put real pants on for the first time in 10 months a little while ago, and it did not go well. 111 throwaway 1117 says, no assholes here. You're not the asshole, but going to nice dinners in stained and ripped clothes signals a possible mental health issue. Could she be really depressed? I used to be someone who wore a full face of makeup, hair extensions, jewelry, dresses, heels, nail polish, etc. daily. I now can sometimes barely manage to brush my hair. I don't feel like myself, and I think it's probably stress and depression from this crap year. I'm personally going to seek therapy. And OP replies, this is not something I thought of, and I feel really stupid for not. Thank you. I'm going to try to talk to her about this. I hope you start feeling yourself again soon. It's been a rough past year, but we're all still persevering. Best of luck to you and all the best. And PR Minx says, no assholes here. Admittedly, I'm looking at this through my own quarantine lens. It's sadly been so long since we've been able to go out, I've lost the will to dress up. I've just completely lost it. Maybe it's the depression. It's almost like I forgot how to dress normally for going out in some sort of way. The quarantine weight gain isn't helping matters either. My sense is that it's going to take some time to adjust to what used to be normal, the same way it took time to adjust to the quarantine in the first place. Give it some time. Be patient. I bet she pulls it together when she has a more established post-quarantine routine. Interesting how some folks have no desire to dress up now coming out of the pandemic. I find myself getting dressed up for the dumbest crap now because I'm just happy to leave the house. And now on to the update. So I'd like to say thank you to everyone who commented. This community may very well have saved my relationship. So I spoke to my girlfriend. First I apologized to her, and then I told her that she seemed to get uncharacteristically upset at the comment I made, and if there was anything else that she wanted to talk about. It took a bit of coaxing, but eventually she opened up to me and told me that she had gained weight during quarantine and felt uncomfortable in her body. She said she didn't want to buy new clothes because she felt embarrassed admitting to me that she was a larger size now, but she didn't like the way her old clothes looked on her. I told her honestly that to me she still looked as beautiful as when we began dating, and that I had not even noticed her fluctuating weight. We have begun a workout regimen at home. It's like CrossFit, but the workouts are only 15 to 20 minutes, so we do one in the morning and one at night. We've also, sadly, cut out all the junk food in our house. It sucks, but luckily she's a really good cook and makes zucchini pasta and kale chips not suck. She said it's too soon to see a difference, but I personally think she already looks like she's getting leaner. To answer a question a lot of people were asking, about the comments she made about why don't I go sleep with my best friend's girlfriend, no, I did not tell her I wish you dressed more like X or anything like that. Her ex cheated on her and slept with his friend's girlfriend. I guess when she got upset, it's just something she jumped to saying. Again, thank you all for your great advice. Our next post is by user ThrowRA titled, Am I the asshole for snapping at my mum and running away from home, leaving my parents worrying with no knowledge of where I am and if I'm safe for 3 days? Now, I know it sounds bad, but bear with me. My parents, 45 female and 44 male, and I, 17 female, have a complicated, strained sort of relationship where they only pay me attention when A, I'm in a life-threatening situation, and B, when I act out. I've never really thought they cared about me, and ran away from home following a heated argument with my mum where she thought that I was out when I wasn't. I was actually hanging out in the yard, and I reacted badly. I was already stressed out, and so when she exploded and started to yell at me without trying to let me have a word in to explain the misunderstanding, I behaved like a brat. I'll admit now, and I snapped, and that it's not like she cared what I was up to, that I wish I'd get out of this miserable crap hole, and that I don't have to wait long for that to happen. She lost it and blew up at me, telling me that I was a disgrace, that she regrets the day I was born, that she wouldn't hold me back if I tried to leave, and that she would be glad to see the back of me, basically confirming what I thought she felt towards me. I told her if that's her wish, then I want nothing to do with her too. I think she tried to stop me from leaving because she tried to grab my arm, but I was out of her reach and ran off to my neighbor's house before she could catch me. As it was dark, she didn't see where I went off to. Even though I felt guilty about what I said, and because I knew the level of criticism they'd face at our family's hand for not reining me in, I admit I felt it was justified, and that I was preempting them. I didn't try to contact them because I wanted to see how this will all play out, mainly if I would be welcomed back if I ever returned, and not turned to the street. But I got cold feet a couple of times while trying to call them, and ultimately decided to leave it until a couple of days have passed so that they can cool off. Which I guess I shouldn't have done, but I didn't count on my parents actually worrying about where I was and if I was safe. Turns out, they do care about me. Dad came to take me home the moment he realized where I was, and we had a row about the stunt that I pulled, and how childish it was. I felt like an asshole for going no contact after realizing just how deep his and her worry ran. Someone told me that it was weird that I felt entitled to my parents' love and attention, and that everything I did was to cause unnecessary drama, which got me thinking that my behavior is not normal. I'm not proud of what I did. I really feel bad. It was a spur-of-the-moment decision that I took under stress because I genuinely thought that my mother wanted me gone. But I'm feeling conflicted because although my friends are on my side, my extended family think that I behaved like a cowardly asshole who broke her parents' hearts on a whim. This image I built of my cold, neglectful, and emotionally distant parents have been destroyed now, and now I'm left feeling like the ungrateful brat they've always thought me to be. So Reddit, am I the asshole? OP has offered the following explanation for why they think they might be the asshole. Because I left them worrying, thinking about what could have happened to me, and wondering where I was, likely imagining the worst scenarios when I could have easily told them that I was safe. Look, in all honesty, I think I'm just gonna go with not the asshole on this one, because you're dealing with a lot of neglect and conflict from your parents, and it took this situation for you to realize, or for them to be truthful about them actually caring about you. By the sounds of it, I think therapy would definitely be something that helps you out going further into the future from here. And while yes, I think that you running away from home was wrong, that you causing a lot of worry in your family and extended family was wrong, I don't think you're an asshole for doing it. I think we see a history of you doing this, and it's not unexpected that you do this. You always come back. And there's always that worry that yes, you're going to be like human trafficked or something. You're going to run into trouble. That would be absolutely terrifying as a parent, thinking of what could happen to your child. Everyone has different opinions on this one. I think you're not the asshole for it. I can see why people would say everyone sucks here. Now, in the comments, So Be It 38562 says, everyone sucks here. Your whole family needs a bit of therapy. What she said to you isn't fair, and what you did wasn't fair. Sounds like your whole family has more issues than you running away. Not the asshole. You left an abusive situation, and abusers will always make you feel like the asshole for not letting them abuse you. The mini Labra bubble says, a lot of people here seem to be saying everyone sucks here, but you are so young, and it sounds like you're dealing with a lot. I say not the asshole. It doesn't mean that what you did was right in my opinion, but from reading your story, I can understand what you were thinking, and you seem to be now seriously considering whether you did the right thing or not. It seems like you've learned a lot from this, or at least you genuinely want to learn from this. If you can't convince your parents to do family therapy, look into youth helplines in your area, and they might be able to help you get therapy yourself. Drizzle My Nizzle 1234 says, everyone sucks here. Running away is so dangerous. Please don't do that. So many horrific things can happen to you more than having seemingly unloving parents. Everyone sucks here. Firstly, your parents shouldn't have neglected you like they did, but it doesn't mean they don't care about you. On the other hand, what you did was just stupid. You shouldn't have just ran away when you know you're literally incapable of being financially independent. Like just sit in your room or something. And not the asshole. Running away is not a good idea, and I don't encourage you doing that, but I understand why you did it. You were feeling unloved and like you didn't matter. Go no contact as soon as you can, and try to get therapy. I'm so sorry you're going through this, and if you ever need a chat, my inbox is always open. Smiley face. And now on to the update. First, I'd like to thank everyone who commented and texted me. That's sweet of you guys. Didn't expect this kind of support and encouragement. Some of you asked for an update, so here it is. So I spoke to my parents about starting therapy. As predicted, they weren't too impressed with the idea, but the moment I said that getting professional help would ensure that nothing like this would happen again, they started considering it. I think the idea that I might run away from them again pretty much sealed the deal. We had our first session yesterday, and I'm still shaken over it. Surprisingly, Mum, who's been more snappish about the whole therapy business, it's unseemly, OP, was the first to open up. It took some probing, of course, but I don't think I've ever heard her talk so much. She's sorry about what she said and did. Apparently, from what the therapist concluded, she has some unresolved trauma they'd need to work on concerning me getting lost at 9 years old. Huh, I forgot about that. She admitted that she constantly feared that it'd happen again, and when she didn't find me in her room, she feared the worst. I have the habit of texting her my exact whereabouts, something I promised to do when I was 14 to get her off my back, but I never realized she read all messages and calls my friends' parents to be sure I'm safe. I apologized for snapping at her and disappearing for 3 days, but I can see that they still don't trust me not to bolt. They said they still have nightmares over it happening, which explains why they come to check on me in the middle of the night. And I feel so bad, but we're working on it. I'll spare you the details, because trust me, there's a lot, but what stayed with me is Dad recounting a conversation we had about my friends, and how I told him that they, at least, understood and liked me. His answer at the time was that he found neither to be important, and he apologized for it now for how little he had understood back then. Another thing was Mum saying she didn't know how to be gentle, and how she struggles to act on her maternal instincts without coming off as overbearing. We unloaded a whole set of insecurities about how she wasn't permitted to be as doting and loving as she would have wanted because of my grandparents' involvement, how Dad felt my acting out was me trying to free myself of them, and a lot of stuff that I couldn't possibly type with a 3,000 character limit. The therapist's train of thought is that with the way they were raised and how the family acts, it's not surprising that their parenting tactics focused more on dominating me rather than being emotionally available like I need. We finished the session with them telling me how much they love me and how proud they are of me, which tears me up even now. So everything is good. We are working on our relationship, it's a slow process and takes a lot of patience. But it's worth it and we're already seeing results. So thank you, all of you, a lot, really. Now in the comments, ETDS3 says, "This is a great update. Word of advice? Whoever told you that it was weird that you felt entitled to your parents' love and attention was dead wrong. If that was one of your extended family members who influenced your parents, that person needs to be cut out of all of your lives." Yeah, what's up with that? I didn't read the original until now either, but it sounds like they've been withholding validation that you desperately need because of someone else's suggestion? Someone is pretty terrible for that. Summer of Mayhem says, "Parents actually opening up and willing to make changes to have a better relationship with their kid is way more rare than it should be. Your mom and dad really love you, even if they don't know how to show it. I wish you all the best." Des Goes to Paris says, "I don't understand all the everyone sucks here verdicts on the original. Like, OP's parents said terrible, horrible things to her, so she ran away and left them to stew. It's great that they're getting therapy now, but like, a child isn't responsible for their parents' issues and shouldn't have to tiptoe around them. I'd run too if my parents said horrible crap like that to me. Whether or not it was the safest or healthiest option for OP isn't the question. All the fret and worry and whatnot that her parents experienced is their own fault for saying such horrible things. Wishing your child was never born and saying it out loud is not something you can excuse due to the heat of the moment." Am I the arsehole for wanting my wife to rehome her birds? So my wife and I took a break a little over 2 months ago. We didn't divorce or split, but just took a small break. We didn't argue over who would stay in the house because we have a young son. It made the most sense for her to stay in the home. Last week, we decided to get back together and end our separation. When I got back, I found out that she had bought 2 birds, Layla and Oscar. They are masked lovebirds. She has wanted an aviary for a while, but knows that I have a phobia of birds. We got a dog to compensate as I know she wanted a pet. She knew I wasn't okay with birds and yet still got them despite us only being separated, not divorced. Now to make matters worse, she's going out and getting 4 more on Monday. I found out that she spent over £700 on them already, plus has looked into quotes on building them a shelter outside. I've tried getting used to them but can't. They're noisy and bite, and I don't like them. It's not okay. So I've told her this. We were on a break, so it's not okay for her to get a pet that I have a phobia of. I've asked her to rehome them because, as I've said twice now, I have a phobia of them. It's not like I haven't tried to get used to them. She's upset, claiming that they'll be outside soon and that they were her comfort during our split. And because we split, I don't have a say in anything. I slept on the sofa because of this argument. 1, we weren't divorced, we just took a break. 2, I wouldn't get a pet knowing that she had a phobia. And 3, it's my garden. I don't want an aviary. Am I the asshole? I know you're trying to be open and everything about this, and it's understandable that you have a phobia of birds, but you don't just go out there and say, it's my garden, I don't want an aviary. I think there's a reason that you guys were separated for this time, and you don't really go over that reason. That probably would be good to know in this situation, in all honesty. Because if you guys had separated because you have control issues, and she doesn't want to be controlled by you, and she feels better having pets, maybe that would be like an exact opposition of this situation. I'd love to say everyone sucks here because she got a pet knowing that you had a phobia of it, but I just feel like I need to know what the hell you guys were fighting about. And I want to know what led to that separation and you having to constantly say, we're not divorced, we're not divorced. I'm going to say it 6 times in this post. We're not divorced. We're just separated. We're back together now. She's happy. I'm happy. We're all a happy family here, all right? It's just those goddamn birds. So yeah, I'd love some context, but the way that you've written this post, I'm going to give you a you're the a-hole judgment. Now in the comments, Batifall says, Your whole post irks me. You sound controlling. You have a young son, so it made more sense for her to stay in the house. Is that so? Unless she's nursing, I don't really see why. And you also said it's your garden, you decide. Yeah, buddy, it's her garden too. Also, not liking birds doesn't make you phobic of them. You don't say a word about why you guys were on a break and who decided on it, and I have a strong feeling it's relevant. In the meantime, you're the arsehole. Couldn't agree more. I had the same controlling feeling all along. But isn't the problem more so that she never even talked about bringing the birds home? Instead, she looks to compromise after she's already ostensibly made the decision. That's not really a compromise. The spouse is 100% in the wrong for bringing the birds in without permission, and if there is to be a discussion about putting the birds outside, it shouldn't be done while the birds are actively in the house. It should have been done before the birds are purchased. OP does sound stubborn about this subject though. I'm getting the sense that there have been conversations about buying birds that we haven't heard about. Ditto. Sounds like the break was beneficial for both parties, and it might need to continue. You sound unhappy. She's making decisions without you. You guys might make better co-parents than partners. Not the asshole about the birds. Yeah, I think this is a pretty big signal. She doesn't accidentally get something that makes the living environment unbearable. Maybe cut each other some slack and call it quits while you can still do it amicably. If he actually has a phobia, he has a right to be stubborn. No one should have to live in fear all day. I have a feeling if the guy was afraid of spiders and his wife got a bunch of tarantulas, people would be a lot more sympathetic. But if he actually has a phobia, I agree. But it doesn't sound like a phobia. It just sounds like a general dislike. You don't bring pets into the house without everyone on board. Why he doesn't want them doesn't matter. It sounds like everyone that was living in the house was on board. I agree with another person that your phobia is more of a dislike than a phobia. Why can't she have them outside? You speak possessively of the garden. It's my garden. It's not like it's also hers though. But you also say that she's always wanted an aviary, and yet you make no compromises for her to have something that she's dreamed about for years. You guys need therapy now. But I honestly predict this doesn't last. Said as the ex-wife of someone who acted just as selfishly as you, and I got sick of it and said no and walked away. And Babs Garcia says, I was not the asshole until it's my garden, I don't want an aviary. I could almost hear you stomping your foot down as you wrote that. So you don't want them inside, you don't want them outside. Basically, she can never have something she desperately wants because you don't like them. Does everything belong to you alone? Do your wants and desires always come first? Isn't an aviary a large outdoor cage? How does that rock your world if it brings her happiness? You throw phobia around quite a bit. Are you not sleeping at night over fear of being attacked by the birds? Or does looking at them just remind you that she has her own thoughts and feelings? I'd say she let you move back in too soon, unless you dictated the rules of that too. You need marriage counseling, as you aren't going to get the answers you need and want here. Yeah, but it's not okay to buy pets your partner doesn't want or like, phobia or not. That's not the way you conduct a relationship, and certainly not the way you repair it. They were split up when she did, and he doesn't get to just demand that she do anything when he moves back in. Sorry, that's just not how relationships work. If there was a mutual understanding they were working towards reunification and getting back together, then you don't make big decisions which is going to end up impacting on both of you. It's like if you and your boyfriend signed a lease today to move in together at the start of September. You wouldn't go out tomorrow and adopt a kitten for yourself without speaking to your boyfriend first. Unless you plan to rehome the kitten come September, in which case, why are you adopting a kitten? Adopting that kitten is a big decision which impacts on both you and your boyfriend. Our next post is by user Unusual Reception 738, titled, Am I the asshole for insisting that my brother and his girlfriend not wear gross clothes in my car? So I, 28 female, have a very sensitive nose. I can't do perfume, I tell guys not to wear cologne on a date, and I can't be around cigarette or pot smoke or I start gagging. My whole family knows this and for the most part are very supportive. This weekend, my brother, 24 male, called me up at 2 a.m. because he and his girlfriend, 22 female, had missed the last train out of the city because they met up with some people at a bar and wound up going back to their place for a bit. He asked me to come get him. Now, my apartment is 40 minutes outside the city, and our parents, who he lives with, are about an hour away. I told him to get an Uber because if they reeked of alcohol, cigarettes, and weed, I didn't want them in my car. He said that it would be too expensive, promised they didn't smell, and begged me to come. I told him that as long as they didn't smell, I would come get him, but that I was prepared to leave him if he did. I got to the address about an hour later. They came out, and it was clear they were both drunk. My brother went to hug me, and I could immediately smell weed on him. I started retching, told him that it wasn't going to work, and to call an Uber. "We showered! There's no way you're smelling anything, it's all in your head," he said to me. Apparently their solution was to shower in these people's apartment, thinking that would get rid of the tobacco and weed smell on their clothes. I told them to call an Uber and got back into my car. He banged on the window, and I told him that he wasn't getting in my car like that. I told him I'd give him half the money for an Uber, and I was leaving. He told me to just roll down the windows. I told him that I didn't want it in my car. He said, "I showered. These are my only clothes I have. I can't ride home naked." That gave me an idea. I opened my trunk, grabbed 2 blankets and 2 trash bags, and I told them to put their clothes in the bag and cover up with the blankets. His girlfriend handed it back and said, "F that, I'll walk," and walked away. My brother told me I was out of my mind and it was all in my head. I reached into my wallet, pulled out $50 and said to call Uber. He handed it back and told me to hold up and ran after his girlfriend. They came back and he asked if they could sit in the back with the windows open. I told him I wouldn't be able to stand it for an hour, so they begrudgingly stripped, put their clothes in the bags, and I tied them off and threw them in the trunk. I drove them to our parents' house in silence and dropped them off without a thank you. My brother's girlfriend unfriended me on Facebook, and he and she are not speaking. And my mum is furious with me, saying that I embarrassed them and I was being overly sensitive. She says I should have called her so she could have gotten them. But my mum goes to bed at 9, so I don't think she would have been thrilled. I feel bad that I put that condition on it, but I would not have been able to tolerate being in my car otherwise. And edit, I've been asked to add some info into my post that I answered in the comments. My reaction to smell is very extreme. I retch, I gag, I throw up, my eyes water, my stomach churns. I get migraines, my heart races, and I get chills that makes everything else worse. I could not have driven home with that stench in my car. We would not have been safe. Everyone who is voting that I'm the asshole seems to think that I forced this girl to take off her clothes to punish or humiliate her. There is no part of me that enjoyed asking my brother to give up his clothes to get in my car. I had no smile on my face, and I apologized to them for being so sensitive to smell. I pushed for the Uber. I even offered to cover most of it. It would have been $65 for them to get home. They didn't want to get in an Uber when they were in that condition. I was embarrassed to ask them to strip, but there was no way for me to make it an hour with them in the car in those clothes. And I did not tell them to get naked. I told them to put their clothes in the bag. They went behind the car, I had my back to them and was keeping my distance. My brother handed me the bags and I tied them up and threw them in the trunk without inspecting them. The blankets were a good size, so all you could really see is that both were barefoot and had removed their shirt and pants. I do not know if they left their underwear on or were naked under there. Any intimate bits were covered. To be fair, I understand your reasoning for this one, and I understand why you did it. I think it was a necessary evil, but it wasn't evil nonetheless. It's not like you could particularly help it because you didn't bring a spare change of clothes for these people, and that would have been unnecessary in most instances. I also think they're assholes for not having a backup plan and forcing you into it when they didn't want to deal with their mother. They knew that you'd be the easiest one to deal with at this time. I think him refusing the $50 and taking an Uber home was also an asshole move. If he really wanted to get out of that situation his own way, he would have taken it. So for that reason, I'm going to go everyone sucks here for this one. Now in the comments, Kufnup says, Pressuring your brother's drunk girlfriend to strip off and to get into your car when she'd already made it clear that she wasn't comfortable with it was a pretty crappy thing for both you and your brother to do, to be honest. I'm not at all surprised she unfriended you and isn't speaking to your brother, and you trying to play the victim here because she didn't thank you is not a great look. Everyone sucks here. Yeah, I mean I get having sensory issues, but this is just kinda gross and entitled behavior. It's not like OP agreed to be their emergency ride ahead of time. She drove out there on the explicit condition that they not smell, which they incorrectly assured her was true. She offered an alternative, a weird one though, instead of just driving away, which is what I would have done. She even gave them $50 for an Uber, which I certainly would not have done after driving 40 minutes. I don't see how OP here is entitled after driving 40 minutes at 2 AM and offering some money for an Uber. Moonwitch says, everyone sucks here. Them for not making good choices, but to be honest, you sound like a lot. I also have sensory issues, and to be honest, sometimes you just have to be an adult and try to just deal with it. I gag daily, sometimes for no reason at all. Changing my child's diapers is a nightmare, but the world is not going to cater to your needs. Best get used to that. I partially agree with this, however, I have sensitivity to chemical smells like perfume, etc. that'll give me an instant migraine, not just cause me to retch. So if that were the case, I'd have been pretty adamant too. Having said that, if it's just a gagging issue, then yeah, it sounds like OP took it a tiny bit far, and open windows could have solved a chunk of the problem. And Drunk on Martinis says, you're the asshole, because you should have just said no in the first place if you knew there was a very good chance you'd strand them anyway. And making someone strip to get in your car is just disgusting and violating. I don't blame that poor girl for not wanting anything to do with either of you anymore. The smell of bare ass on your blankets isn't just as gross as smoke to you? Not the asshole. You said their stench would make you sick, and they lied to get you there. You were nice to offer half the Uber. I can't believe how far I had to scroll to find this. What in the world? OP got her ass out of bed at 2 AM and drove 40 minutes to pick up her lying ass brother and his cheap ass girlfriend. They should have known that showering and putting on the same stinky clothes was not going to solve the problem. They could have just gotten an Uber and been home without any showering, waiting, or fighting. I think OP was too nice to even give them a chance by driving out there, but not remotely an asshole for it. She wanted to help, she tried to help in various ways, offering several solutions and options. She shouldn't have to drive an hour with the windows rolled down just to not hurl in her own car. And who knows how long the smell would have lingered, at least by her own noticing, since she is that sensitive. Why should she have to compromise her health and comfort for these freeloaders? And our next post is by user It's Sidwood, titled, Am I the asshole for posting a group pic of my coworkers despite one of the guys saying his girlfriend will break up with him if he's in the photo with other girls? Basically the title. My work took a photo today with everyone in it, during work, because we travelled for work this week. One of the guys asked nobody to post it because he can't have his girlfriend see it. She will break up with him if he takes a picture with a girl in it. I'm a girl, and we all told him that's stupid and he should get a new girlfriend, so I posted it anyways. I didn't tag him, he's pissed, and am I the asshole? Edit for details, this was a group pic at our job site. We were in uniforms. This one really boggles the mind in all honesty. I don't get why this girlfriend is so controlling that you can't even take pictures with other girls no matter the circumstance. Don't worry if you guys are all fully clothed, it's professional, you're at work having a group photo. Don't worry about that. No. Those are random girls and that's a power trip and you're gonna have to apologize to your girlfriend for being in the presence of other women for a photo because you could potentially be cheating at work. Oh my god, that's crazy. This is ridiculous, I'm going with not the asshole. Now in the comments, Scorpio Girl 70 says, not the asshole. It's a work group photo. It's not like he's taking selfies with random girls. If she breaks up with him over that, it's doing him a favor. The other people in this thread are crazy. If he's not comfortable having a picture posted, he shouldn't be in the picture. What's the effing point of pictures if not to share them? I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. It's not okay to post pictures of other people if they don't want you to. It's not a picture of him. It's a work picture. The picture is of the staff of the workplace. It is unreasonable for him to make demands about what is being done with it. If he doesn't want his psycho girlfriend seeing it, he shouldn't be in it in the first place. And he didn't say, "I do not wish to have my photo taken." He said, "Don't post said photo. My girlfriend will be crazier than what she already is." OP has every right to share her life on social media. If said coworker knew him being in a work photo with other coworkers, which involve women, and knew that it would be an issue, he shouldn't have partook in it, period. Asking your coworkers to limit what they post because of your lack to see the red flags your significant other gives you is unfair to say the least. OP didn't tag him or do it to deliberately hurt her coworker. Since it was a work group photo, the company would be more than likely to use that for marketing purposes or more than likely share it elsewhere, because why else would they take the photo in the first place? People are so quick to jump straight to laws and regulations, but court isn't textbook. Nor would her coworker go to lengths to sue on the basis of, "It'll make my girlfriend upset." People are ridiculous. I tried to look further down, but I couldn't find anything besides the "not the asshole" responses, so I'm guessing the other ones were just either deleted or they're just really far down, so that's weird. Am I the asshole for shouting at my parents and calling them blind? Now, the title seems really bad, but hear me out. I, 19 female, have an elder sister, 25 female, who recently lost her best friend due to a car accident. They were friends from literally when they were both babies, and all of this has affected her in a really bad way. It's been 2 months since the accident, and ever since then, she's been really quiet. She barely eats anything or talks to anyone. Her college grades have also dropped, and seeing all this, I'm really worried about her. I tried talking to her, but she won't open up to me. I couldn't see her like that anymore, so I suggested my parents that we should let her seek help from a professional, like a therapist, but here's the thing. My parents don't believe that mental health issues are real. They are very traditional people when it comes to mental health, and apart from that, they're really up to date with everything. It's just the mental health that feels like a taboo to them. They just told me that there is nothing therapy can do and that she'll get over it soon. But I told them it's not a thing that you can get over soon, and the condition my sis is in right now, I don't think she will get over it soon. But my parents wouldn't hear the end of it. They then started telling me about my cousin, whom I don't really know or talk to, that she faked that she was in a really bad mental health state just to get attention from people around her, and that her parents wasted a lot of money and time on her therapy, so they don't believe it. They don't think that my sister needs therapy because she's not depressed or anything like that. And at this point, I'm furious, and I kinda raised my voice and said, "What the hell, guys? My sister is not like her, and she's clearly not faking it. Can't you guys see her? The way she's being, she's not okay. How effing blind can you guys be? And are we gonna wait around till the time she gets effing depressed to seek professional help?" Mind that this was the first time that I was talking to them in this way, all of this just for my sister, who was their daughter as well. My parents got mad at me for raising my voice and calling them blind, and scolded me for talking to them like that and cursing at them. They also told me that I'm young, so I shouldn't talk about things that I don't understand. They called me a brat and are now not on speaking terms with me. Am I the asshole for shouting at my parents and calling them blind? No, they're the ones that seem like kids in this situation. They refuse to accept that mental health is a real thing for people, and it seems like it's purely off of the basis that someone was faking it. So of course, this one person faking it means that it's not possible to have mental health issues because you're just faking it, bro. I've already seen it before. Your parents basically don't want to argue with you. They got mad at you for raising your voice and calling them blind, and they attacked you for that. They're like, how dare you try and give us an opinion that's different to our own? And now they're not on speaking terms with you. It's obvious that your parents are childish and ignorant and don't actually care about your sister's mental health. I'm gonna vote not the asshole for shouting at them. It feels like they don't want to listen and they won't listen. That would be extremely frustrating. Now in the comments, Check the Boxes says, not the asshole. You and your sister are both old enough to find a therapist yourselves, so forget the parents and get her a therapist. Old enough, but probably not wealthy enough. Therefore, the talk with the parents. Not every country offers therapy with the basic health insurance. Gently Used says, not the asshole. It sounds as if your sister is already experiencing depression. I have a son that deals with it. Grief will definitely take you through various emotions and can take a while to cope with. Please reach out to someone now for her, and kudos for being a great little sis and looking out for what's best for her. Best to all of you. Not the asshole. Can we stop calling people traditional when it comes to mental health? The word you're looking for is ignorant. And also the way the parents talked about the cousin situation. I hate when people frame just to get attention as something not worthy. If this is the only resource the person had to get attention and help, that crap is bad. And Resolve Pleasant 2282 says, not the asshole. You may be the one to raise your voice, but your sister's behaviors are what's screaming for help. It is so sad that you had to frame it as something that your parents should let her do. It sounds as if you were trying so hard to be your sister's voice to your parents. Your sister should be the one who wants to see the therapist, but it should be a very viable option. Your parents burying their heads in the sand by pretending that depression doesn't exist isn't going to make it go away. Your sister may not slip into a depression, but validation and support can really, really help. And now on to the update. Since many of you guys asked me for the update, here it is. First of all, I want to thank each and every single one of you for showing so much support for my sister and I. Thank you guys for the silver and other awards as well. These are my very first awards, so thank you very much. I would also like to thank some of the people with You're the A-hole opinions, because that helped me as well. Now, after reading all of the comments, I went ahead and talked to my sister, and I asked her how she would feel about trying talking to a professional. She didn't agree right away, but after a little coaxing, she agreed to it. I told her what happened between our parents and I, and let's just say there were many tears and hugs after that. I then made my parents sit down at the dining table. I apologized to them for shouting and cursing at them, but I told them that mental health is a real thing, and we should at least give talking to a professional one chance, and if my sister doesn't feel that it's helping her, we will take a look at some other options. My parents didn't agree at first, but then I told them this time in a very polite manner that it really is a difficult time for my sister, and we should help her in this time, and knowing that they were here to support would mean the world to her. I also told them that having mental health issues and seeking out professional help is nothing to be ashamed of. Instead, we should embrace it because it's okay to need someone's help. And at this point, I was a crying mess, and my parents were on the verge of crying as well. They were reluctant, but they agreed. We went to our sister's room, and we told her that we are here for you whenever she needs us. Our parents apologized for behaving the way they did, and told us that there is nothing more important than seeing their children happy, and that they would be coming to the sessions if my sister feels like she needs them there. All this ended in a big hug and lots of happy tears. So my sister is going for an appointment next week. I hope everything goes well, and fingers crossed. Once again, thank you all for showing support and positivity. I showed all of the comments to my sister, and she was overwhelmed by the support, and says thanks to you guys. Thanks for the You're the Arsehole judgments as well. My sister saw them and thought that you guys were right, as I shouldn't have cursed at my parents. But once again, thank you so much, guys. Now in the comments, Petty Betty says, this update warms my heart. You are an incredible sister, and I'm proud of you for how you handled yourself when talking to your parents. I'm so happy that your parents came around and realized your sister and their daughter is hurting, and needs them more than ever. I'm also very, very happy that your sister is going to get the help she needs. I wish you and yours all the love, strength, and healing. C Dizzle516 says, well done, OP. I just want to put it out there as well that just because your sister doesn't connect with the first therapist she sees doesn't mean there is no benefit to it. I lost my best friend, and the first therapist I saw rubbed me up completely the wrong way. Make sure you emphasize to your parents and sister that not all therapists are created equal, and she will not necessarily have rapport with everyone she sees. Good luck. Our next post is by user Swiper No Swiping, titled, "Am I the asshole for spending my dad's money on a trip with my aunt instead of stepmom?" A little insight. I, 17 female, lost my mum this year in early April. My parents divorced when I was really young, but I've kept in touch over the years with my dad to ask for financial help with schools, trips, etc. Other than that, he told both my mum and I not to keep in touch unless necessary. Ever since my mum's passing, I've been living with my dad. I don't know the details, but my mum and dad never had a friendly relationship, and I can tell my dad didn't really like her, but to me, she was my single working mum, and I really miss her. My dad's new wife, my stepmom, is okay, but she acts a bit tense around me and tries too hard. I don't think she likes my mum either, since she tells me to stop when I talk about her. I feel like my dad is pushing for us to get close, but I don't see that happening since I barely know either of them well enough, plus I'll only ever have one mum. Here's where the problem starts. Now, back when I used to live with my mum, she used to work tons of shifts, get barely any rest, and work her damn hardest for me. I wanted to surprise her with a surprise vacation or a small trip for her to relax, but we couldn't afford it, so I started asking my dad for money every few weeks, saying I needed it for extracurricular courses. When I finally had enough, my mum passed away, and I started living with my dad and stepdad. I still had the trip money left over, so I called in my aunt, which was my mum's sister, to come with me for the trip. I don't know how, but my dad found out about the money that I've collected and got really angry, but said that he'd forgive me if I went on the trip with stepmom. Obviously I didn't, and I left with my aunt when he was away at work. My aunt and I had a blast on our small road trip, stayed at a motel, and basically just toured around in big wide open spaces. As a city child, I had a lot of fun in the countryside. Now, when I came back, Dad was really mad and took away all my devices and grounded me, calling me an asshole for not choosing to go with stepmom and using his money like a thief. I know what I did with lying about my courses and taking his money was wrong, but was it wrong of me to go with my auntie? She really reminds me of my mum, and I missed her so much. My dad, his wife, and extended family found out and are all calling me a petty thief and a liar. My stepmom has started ignoring me in the house too, and everyone keeps telling me to apologize. But I don't see where I did wrong with going with my aunt, who I feel closer to. I don't see a problem with the way you spent the money either. You went with your aunt who you wanted to go to, it wasn't a misappropriation of funds, and your dad's trying to force a relationship with your stepmom that you don't want. He should recognize that and see, hey, maybe I'm pushing her too hard, maybe I should let her be her own person. She is 17 years old after all. But he's too caught up in whatever the hell he's doing with his own life to realize that. And now he's looking for retaliation by the sounds of it. I wouldn't accept that behavior from him, and I would probably, if you can afford it, get out of there as soon as you can. Not the asshole. Now in the comments, Spiritual Phoenix says, not the asshole. Now, while the way you went about getting the money to finance the trip was not exactly kosher, you had every right to decide who to take with you. You chose to take someone you know and love, someone who has a close connection to your mother. The fact that you aren't close with your father and stepmother is their own fault. He was the one who chose to only support you financially and not emotionally, so he has only himself to blame. Is there a way for you to get out of their house? Could you live with your aunt? They are emotionally abusing and isolating you because you didn't cower to their demands, and that is not okay. It could get worse. I'm so sorry for your loss. And OP replies, thank you. I want to get out too, but I don't think my dad will allow it. Plus my aunt is struggling financially, so I don't want to be a burden on her. I plan to move out and become independent when I can though. You're 17. You're old enough to decide. Talk to your aunt, but don't apologize. A name I can't pronounce says, most people are going to say not the asshole to you because you're a kid and your mum died and your father, stepmother and her extended family are clearly being assholes. However, my read is this is a difficult, yet clear, everyone sucks here. Quote, I started asking my dad for money every few weeks, saying that I needed it for extracurricular courses. You lied to him, OP. With that said, quote, my dad, his wife, and extended family found out and are all calling me a petty thief and a liar. My stepmom has started ignoring me in the house too, and everyone keeps telling me to apologize. But I don't see where I did wrong with going with my aunt, who I feel closer to. They sound awful. Where is their empathy? Now, you might be asking the same thing about me. Where's my empathy? I have tons of it for you. If I were your dad in this situation, I'd tell you the lying wasn't cool, but go have the trip with your aunt and let's move on. I wouldn't continually punish you over it. You know it wasn't right to lie about why you needed the money, and that would be enough for me. I'm sorry for your loss. And Pistachio Wee says, I don't believe OP is the asshole. Mainly because I know what it is to have a single mother who works hard to support you and a father who does the bare minimum, as it can be inferred with this post. Your answer shows that you haven't experienced having a dad who will not help at all unless is strictly necessary. I believe that the fact that OP had to lie to get some pocket money from her dad says a lot more of the dad than of OP's moral character. While I'm not saying lying is okay, I get why OP did it. And now onto the update. OP says, I thought it was about time to make an update post. Although my previous post was judged and the final verdict given was not the asshole, I recognize my mistake and have since apologized to both dad and stepmom. Right now I'm working on paying them back through chores and helping around the house, and I'm getting there slowly. The total amount I took from my dad was $150, by the way. I got the money through lying because our city was in lockdown at the time and I couldn't get any jobs even if I wanted to. Plus, allowance was out of the question. Now, regarding child support, I don't know if my dad was paying it or not since my mum told me not to talk about financial issues and stuff, which was probably not to worry me. But I do know that we didn't exactly live the high life. There was barely much to eat and my mum worked multiple jobs. We lived paycheck to paycheck. My dad is much better off financially. Stepmom has finally stopped ignoring me but doesn't make much convo. I've tried asking my dad why his relationship with my mum was so bad, and he said they had a forced marriage and not to talk about her since it would upset stepmom, and that she's currently pregnant. To be honest, I'm just really tired and miss my mum. Thanks to the people who gave me advice on what to do and how to move out and be independent. I'll work hard until then. Stay safe, everyone. Bye. And thanks for the awards and kind messages too. And in the comments, Bicycles with Daisies says, wait, they threw a fit over $150? That's insane. I'd honestly look into the child support because I don't know whether it could be applied retroactively. You need your own account with no parents on it. If you can't because you're a minor, have your aunt sign. Once you're 18, immediately take anyone off the account, even if you trust them. They are treating you like a thief over $150. That is horrible, and I'd try to get out as fast as possible. No kidding, I thought it was more like $1,500. Gah, I'd spend dollars for that. Girl, go make your way in the world. Make your mum proud. You've got a fan club out here. Ice Cream Penis says, I am so sorry about your mum. You sound like a really decent, loving person. Feeling guilty over $150 after a lifetime of neglect shows how kind you really are. The fact that your mother died less than a year ago, you lost your home, your whole life was turned upside down, and you're not even allowed to talk about her, is completely despicable. Your dad and stepmother are objectively bad people and should be ashamed of themselves. I don't give a crap if they had a forced marriage. That was their problem, not their innocent child's problem. Since you're a minor, I take it that your stepmother's end-of-life financial stuff was dealt with by your new guardian. Your dad, correct? Who had control of her assets and property? You are almost 18, and if I were you, I would be taking a very close look at the legal side of what happened after her death. You are also entitled to a pension if you're in Canada, and I think the US. My dad died when I was 15, and I got what was called an orphan pension. Back then, in the year 2000. Make sure that they aren't fleecing you. It was about $100 a month back then. If your dad is guilting you over how much money you spent that was gifted to you, I wouldn't be surprised at all if he was withholding other crap from you as well. Am I the asshole for getting mad at my mum for bringing a man into our home 2 weeks after my stepdad died? So I, 19 female, and my mum, 60 female, recently had my stepdad pass away 2 weeks ago. He's been in my life since I was 10, and I loved him so much, and the whole situation of his passing was traumatic, because he passed away in her arms and we're grieving. I've been taking care of my mum because I feel I need to. Making sure she takes her heart medicine, making sure she eats and drinks water every day, just overall being as helpful for her as I can. Well, I left the house today to go out with my boyfriend. I told her I'd be coming home later in the night. Normally, I come home pretty late, and I didn't text her today because I assumed she would be sleeping. Long story short, I came home tonight to see an unfamiliar car in my parking spot in our driveway at 11 p.m. I was confused, but just thought that it was one of her girlfriends. I looked in the window to the living room and saw a shirtless man. I went to open the door, but it was locked, and I heard my mom whisper, "We weren't doing anything, okay?" I am shocked and confused. She opens the door and I just looked at her and said, "What the hell is going on?" Normally, I wouldn't speak to my mom in a disrespectful way, but I couldn't hold myself back this time. I looked at the man sitting on the couch and realized it was my biological dad's. My mom divorced him and we still love her. Ex-best friend, who my dad and mum have known since they were 16. He recently divorced his wife and rekindled his friendship with my mum. I went off and started asking them why they were doing that crap in my stepdad's home. Yes, I know he's passed and is not coming back, but it seems gross to me that she would do that so soon in the home that was my stepdad's before it was ours. I just couldn't believe what I was seeing. I know I have no right to tell my mom what to do, but I was in shock and just started yelling at them. I told the guy he should leave, and he walked out before he could even put his shoes on. After he left, my mum just laid down on her bed and stayed silent. I was asking her why she thought that was a good idea, and why she had to bring him into our home for a late-night booty call. She stated that my stepdad was in bad health, which is true, and they hadn't had sex in over a year, and she never planned for that to happen with the guy she invited here. I want to tell my older sisters what happened so I can know what to do, but I'm conflicted. And edit, in the end of our disagreement, I told my mom I respect her opinion, and she can do as she pleases, but just not to bring him to our home, which she agreed to. I understand that she has needs and will cope as she sees fit, and I can respect that, but I don't agree with it. Edit 2, I felt the need to add that my stepdad was the most amazing thing that ever happened to my mum and I. He was there for us when no one else knew how after my mum separated from my dad. My dad wasn't the greatest towards her, and she had to leave. My stepdad took on the job of being a dad when he never had a kid himself. He made our home warm and loving and did everything he could for us. We wouldn't have this home if it weren't for him. We wouldn't have anything. Even if in the end he couldn't be intimate with her, he loved her more than life itself, and she knows that. And edit 3, thanks for the awards and the advice. I talked it all over with my mum, and we're back to being civil. I know I was in the wrong with the way I acted, and know better than to disrespect my mum like this. I called one of my sisters and let her know, and she was shocked, but handled it well since she's older and far more mature than I am. The constructive criticism gave me help that I was really in need of. Thank you again. And OP has offered the following explanation for why they thought they might be the asshole in this situation. I might be the asshole considering the way that I treated my mum in this situation. I was rude and told off to adults. I was quite disrespectful, but I don't know how to react to a situation like this. Obviously, given my biased view now that I've seen the edits, I'm gonna go with no assholes here. It could have easily been an everyone sucks here judgment if I hadn't seen the edits and seen that you fixed the situation, but now we know things resolved well. I'm gonna say you weren't the arsehole for your actions, she's not the arsehole for her actions, even if you don't agree with them. Yes, people have needs, emotional, physical, and intimate. And it can be hard to navigate situations like this, especially when you're confronted with it and you're still grieving the loss of someone so important to you. I can absolutely respect that. You're well within your rights to be upset. She's within her rights to be upset. And this just feels like a normal fight. No bad blood there. So no assholes here. Now in the comments, the only creepy cat says, no assholes here. I absolutely see why this upset you. It would upset me too if I was in that situation. I can also see that your mum was sad and turned to a friend for comfort. It wasn't a great move on your mum's part to let you find out about it, but I cannot imagine that it was on purpose. And OP replies, thank you. It's just a bad situation overall. And they reply again, I'm very sorry for your loss. Also, very proud of you for supporting your mum so well. And grief does weird things to people. I'm sorry for your loss, OP. Unapproved Activities says, no assholes here. Your mum is grown. She's grieving and lonely. If her husband was in bad health for a year, then she may have been lonely longer than just these 2 past weeks. Seeking out male companionship for comfort is probably a bit self-destructive so soon, but it isn't inherently wrong. It feels like betrayal to you, and I get that. I really do. But it isn't actually betrayal. She can be self-destructive if she wants to because she's an adult. You have lost a very loved parent only very recently, but your relationship with him is entirely independent from your mum's relationship with him, and your grieving process is going to look very different. What you are ready for and or need will probably look different from what she's ready for and or needs in several different ways. This one happened to be shocking and understandably upsetting, and it's definitely okay to not feel ready to think about your mum being with other men. But it doesn't mean that she has to wait until you are ready if she needs this right now. I don't think your immediate reaction was great, but I also don't blame you considering the circumstances. That's why I don't think you're the asshole. You should probably apologize for your reaction because it was hurtful, then work on respecting that the two of you will have different needs, timelines, and processes. I also think it's fair to ask for some reasonable boundaries. Like, you don't want to meet any new partners yet. Maybe she can meet her friend at his place for the time being. Stuff like that. But yelling at her isn't going to do anyone any good. And OP replied, towards the end, I did just ask her to not bring him to our home since I know who he is and always thought of him as family. She agreed, but stated that it probably wouldn't be the last time she saw him. I can respect it, but it's just uncomfortable. You have some great points that I definitely needed to hear. Thank you. Our next post is by user throwaway671209, titled, Am I the asshole for shaming my mother-in-law in front of the whole family for spreading lies about me? So my husband and I don't want kids. He had gotten a vasectomy even before I dated him, and I wanted to be child-free, so we both knew it's never going to happen. She didn't know that my husband has gotten a vasectomy and believes that it's me who's not giving her grandchildren, so she hated me. When I got married, she wrote this whole letter about how she can't wait for us to be parents and read it out loud during our reception. She would cry on the phone with my sister-in-law about how I'm the worst thing that has ever happened to her. She would make racist Facebook posts targeted at me because I'm Asian and my husband is white. There have been times that she would introduce my husband to different women when he's already married to me and would tell him that he deserved better. 3 days ago, I was at a family gathering. I never really attend family gatherings because my mother-in-law is present there, but it had been a long time since I've met his family. When I was just talking to my husband's aunt, she casually says, I'm sorry that you can't experience motherhood. How does my husband's name feel about it? I asked her what it was she was talking about, and she tells me that my mother-in-law has been going around telling everyone in the family group chat that I'm infertile. I honestly lost my mind. I went up to my mother-in-law and asked her about it. She told me that she didn't want to tell everyone that my husband is less of a man because he got a vasectomy done, and thought that it was better to tell everyone that I was infertile. I started to scream at her. Everybody in the room kind of started telling me that I shouldn't be ashamed because I'm infertile. They thought I was shifting the blame on my husband when I'm infertile. And I revealed the truth because I was not infertile. I told everyone about how my mother-in-law was spreading lies because she didn't want her son to be less of a man. I told everyone about her introducing my husband to different women because she wanted to replace me and is openly racist towards me. My brother-in-law calmed me down because I was bawling my eyes out and called my husband, asking him to come home. My husband came home, his mother was crying and telling him that I ruined her reputation. She tells him how I'm trying to make him hate her. My husband took my side, and he told her that it was the last time he would be stepping into the house, and he is going to cut ties with her. And then we left the house. My husband thinks that I did the right thing, standing up for myself. I've been getting text messages from his relatives about how I broke a mother and son's relationship. My mother-in-law is making posts about me on Facebook. I know I could have handled it better, but am I the asshole? And edit, I would like to clear up 2 things because I'm being asked about it. 1. When my mother-in-law gave this speech during my reception, that's when my husband told her about his vasectomy. 2. My husband didn't attend the gathering with me because the next day was my birthday and he was planning a surprise for me. And 3. Some people pointed it out that I shouldn't have lashed out at a family gathering, which is absolutely right. I feel bad for it, and I know I could have handled it better. Thank you so much for the replies. Look, yeah, in all honesty, I think you could have handled it better than lashing out at a family gathering. That is a bad look in general for social circumstances like that, but I'm sure, it's different in this situation because they all understand what your mother-in-law is like. They understand that she probably pushes people to breaking point like this, and this probably, I would assume at least, that this isn't the first time this has happened. It would come as a shock and a big surprise to me if she has never pushed someone to lash out at her publicly before, considering how this went. I'm gonna have to say that your emotions and your feelings are valid in this situation. What you did was probably not particularly the right thing, but I don't think it's wrong. I think it diffused the situation and showed just how scummy she was in a very time-efficient manner, where you didn't have to go to everyone individually and explain yourself. You can get it all done right there, she gets called out, everyone changes their opinion on this situation. So I think you handled it. Yes, I do think you handled this situation, and I agree with you. Not the asshole. Now in the comments, Piet Pompey's 7 says, not the asshole. Seems that the mother has an unhealthy obsession with grandchildren and is a bit of an unpleasant person. I would recommend adoption for her if she really wants children. I think the mother is someone who only considers biological children as her true grandchildren. And also, OP didn't ruin her reputation. She ruined her own goddamn reputation. And the relationship between a mother and a son. Not the asshole, and kudos to your husband for standing up to his family for you. Maybe your mother-in-law will learn her lesson someday, but it seems that she's not willing to. You have to keep yourself safe from such shockingly negative influences. I'd say kudos for getting there eventually, but he shouldn't have even let it get that far. Even if he was unaware of the other comments, he was certainly aware of when his mother was trying to set him up with multiple other women. He should have shut it down by that point. Not the asshole for sure, though. Was gonna say, the part when Mum was introducing other women to him and he didn't say anything. He was becoming a bit of the asshole. Well, apparently he did say something. OP wouldn't know about it otherwise. Don't blame him, he's a victim of his mother as well. And Lavington Windsor says, she played the stupid game, she won the stupid jackpot. It's great your hubby is being supportive. He doesn't think you're the asshole here, and neither do we. Look, your mother-in-law lied and schemed and connived against you, and she's reaping what she sowed. Stand tall. I'm sorry you had to go through that, but you can now cut her out of your day-to-day life, and it will be all the better for it. The mother-in-law is probably the reason he doesn't want to have kids, to be honest. And that was my first thought too. Our next post is by user Triple Skeet. titled, Am I the Arsehole for Wanting to Be Able to Decide How My Family Spends Father's Day with Me? So I am the father of a 13-year-old daughter and a 12-year-old son. My kids are my world. So my daughter is an athlete. Recently, this has posed a problem around Father's Day. My view is this: Father's Day is for me. It's the one day a year when I get to decide what we do all day. It's almost always the same thing. The four of us hang out swimming in the pool, go see a movie, then go out to dinner at the restaurant of my choice. That is literally all I ask for. I should add that on Mother's Day, we also do whatever my wife wants to do the entire day as well. This year, my daughter had a tournament added to her schedule on Mother's Day. The tournament was cancelled because apparently not enough kids were going to attend and they couldn't field enough teams. My wife admitted that she was mad that they were having a tournament, but at the same time wasn't going to pull my daughter. I told her that it was her day, and regardless of what she decided, I would support her decision 100%. There was then a tournament scheduled on Father's Day. These can last over 7 hours. I wanted to pull my daughter from it originally, and this caused a conflict with my wife. She felt my daughter had made a commitment to the team and should show up and play. For the record, she plays in a new tournament almost every week. We argued about it for a bit, and we agreed that we'd let my daughter decide. My daughter decided she should play the first game of the tournament and then leave. We both thought this was fair, and as it got closer, it turned out a few of the girls on the team weren't going to make it, so if my daughter backed out of the games, her team would forfeit. And also, the coach couldn't make it this week either. At this time, my wife told my daughter that it was still her decision, but if she left after the first game, my wife wouldn't be happy about it. To make peace, I told my daughter to just play the whole tournament and don't worry about it. It wasn't worth it to leave because my wife would be miserable the rest of the day and it would ruin the day anyway. In the end, it didn't matter anyway, as I wound up having to work a very rare Father's Day shift at my night job, so the day was pretty much shot anyway. My problem is this. This seems to be something that's going to be reoccurring. It happened once a few years back, but not since, so I didn't expect to have to deal with this every year. I've tried explaining to my wife how I feel about it, and how I'd like to tell the coach at the beginning of each season that we wouldn't be available for anything on Father's Day. She doesn't agree with me. She's a former college athlete, and thinks that my daughter shouldn't miss a game ever. I enjoy watching my daughter play sports, but I don't want to spend 7 hours doing it on Father's Day. So am I the arsehole for wanting to be the one that determines what my family does with me on Father's Day without having to deal with attitude or anger if they don't agree? Am I asking too much to let my kids skip one tournament a season so that I can have my day? I think you can get off with this one because in both of these instances where you've brought up tournaments, so many people have backed out, the coach included. The only one who seems to have any huge commitment to this are the rest of the ones that didn't back out, which seems to be a small percentage if the tournament gets cancelled every time, and your wife. And just because your wife was a college athlete doesn't mean that your daughter has to be a college athlete too. Your daughter doesn't have to attend every single goddamn game when there's a trend of people missing out on them all the time. Even your wife admitted that she was mad that they were having a tournament on Mother's Day but wasn't going to pull your daughter. That's honestly fine. That's her decision. But at the same time, I don't think you can dictate what happens on Father's Day when you want to. I do think that if she wants to play on a tournament on Father's Day, you can ask ahead of time if they can schedule her off and if she wants to do that. But if she wants to play a tournament on Father's Day, I think her needs come before yours, even if it is Father's Day. Ultimately, I feel like you'll find the best solution for this one. I don't think you'll screw your daughter and your wife over here. I do think you have good intentions. I'm going to go with no assholes here, but it's kind of skating thin ice if that control that I want to do this on XYZ goes unchecked further into the future. Now in the comments, Highwood Shady says, not the asshole. Scheduling a tournament on Mother's or Father's Day just creates a headache for the kids on the team. Your annoyance is understandable, but the problem lies with the adults who schedule the tournament, not the kids on the team. I can appreciate all perspectives. You want a day to yourself with your family, your daughter doesn't want to let down the team. And I think it's worth OP pushing back against this scheduling for future years with the team and the tournament organisers. Look how many other kids skipped it, and the coach too. It's not a fair time to have a tournament. Kids' sports have gotten so out of control. If they're doing a 7-hour tournament every weekend, that feels like way too much. Let kids be kids sometimes, and if the coach that scheduled it can't even make it, then the kids shouldn't have to either. I feel like they should have not gone just so the other kids on the team didn't feel pressured too. Proud Boomer says, no assholes here, but get over the whole I decide what happens today thing. Father's Day is about a hug and a kiss, a card, and maybe a gift. My kids decide Father's Day because without them, it would just be another Sunday for me. I'm glad someone said it. Right? You're not king for the day. And SJS Corgis says, in my opinion, you're the asshole. As a parent, the needs of your children should come first. What is stopping you from celebrating being a father another day? A day that will work for everyone. What do you do for your father or father-in-law for Father's Day? How do you celebrate Grandparents' Day? Being an adult can suck because life is full of compromises. And OP replies, since you asked the question, during the week, I work. On the weekend, more sports. It's either that day or nothing. I call bull on this. There are other days within the space of a year when sport isn't scheduled. Do you not have public holidays in your country? School holidays? Gaps between sports seasons? You're acting like Father's Day is the only globally recognized day that fathers are allowed to spend with their children. If this really matters to you, you could do it. Am I the arsehole for not wanting to share room with my stepbrother anymore after he came out? So my dad got married over a year ago. His wife moved in with her son who's the same age as me, 16. It's a 2-bedroom house, so Stephen moved into my room too. It didn't bother me before because I was mostly with my mum and my dad only on weekends. My mum got called out of state for work and she's not going to be back for months, so I'm now with him full time. I've met Stephen a few times, but now being here all the time, I notice weird stuff. There's a bathroom in my room, and he literally gets out naked every single time, even when I was already in the room before he went in. I always tell him, what the F, dude? And he says sorry, but always does it. Now I just leave the room when he showers. When I play video games, he'll come sit right next to me, and we're pressed right against each other. There's more space on the couch, so it bothers me that he does that. Other times he'll be talking to me and put his hand right on my lap, but not move it. I don't know. It's weird for me because I don't like being touched, but he's always super touchy with me, no matter how many times I tell him I hate it. What's made it really uncomfortable is when I change or something in the room. He straight up watches me, and it creeps me out, so I go do that in the bathroom too. It's always weird when he's around and I just don't like it, and he always wants to be around me. He came out 2 months ago, and now some stuff makes sense. It's more awkward because I feel like he's into me or something. Still stares if he comes in when I'm changing my clothes, but acts like he wasn't. Gets naked around me when he's changing, etc., etc. So I told my dad I don't want to share my room with him anymore, and I said why. My dad doesn't think it's wrong the way he is, but let me turn the basement downstairs into my own room when I asked him. It was a TV room that we never used, and it had lots of space for my bed and all my other stuff. Stephen's mad now that I don't want to share a room with him. He says I'm being homophobic because what a coincidence, I'm only doing it now after he came out. His mum is mad too and thinks I'm overreacting because boys change in locker rooms together all the time, so that shouldn't make me uncomfortable. She says too that I'm being weird only because he's gay. But I don't know. I was always uncomfortable in locker rooms too, and plus he straight up walks around naked in front of me, which I don't like. It's tense at home with them both saying I'm being homophobic, and Stephen says I'm hurting his feelings not wanting to share that space anymore. I didn't like any of the stuff he was doing even before he came out, but now I'm just to where I was fed up with it. Knowing that he's gay just made me start to wonder if it was all being done on purpose. So I don't know, am I being an asshole? What he's doing is, for all intents and purposes, sexual harassment. You shouldn't have to have him expose himself to you every time you're in the room with him after he's in the bathroom. You shouldn't have to deal with someone watching you get changed and making a point of watching you get changed. And you also shouldn't have someone putting their hand on your lap in the first place, and on top of that, not moving their hand, just when you're in normal conversation with him. He's broken so many personal boundaries in these actions. I can only imagine there is a lot more that he's done that you either don't realize or are just blocking out, that I don't blame you for your actions here and wanting to get away from him. Two 16-year-olds shouldn't be sharing a room in the first place. So that should have been all the reasoning you needed to move into the basement downstairs. Him and his parent using his coming out as a tool to attack you is another thing that is just goddamn wrong. You don't do that. They are doing you so dirty here, OP, that I can't imagine you would want to come back to this house after your mum comes back full time. And I don't blame you if you don't. I'm going not the asshole. Now in the comments, Deleted says, not the asshole, and this shouldn't have anything to do with him being gay. You've set your boundaries, and he keeps knowingly and willingly crossing them. If your parents won't do anything about it, then start using the phrase sexual harassment, because that is literally what it is. Get a teacher or counselor involved too. You are not being homophobic at all. What he's doing is straight up sexual harassment, and touching you without your consent is sexual assault. Sit the whole family down and explain in great detail what he's doing, and then call it what it is: sexual harassment and sexual assault. Tell them that you were making excuses for him before he came out, but now that he's out, it's become clear what he's doing, and it's completely unacceptable. Tell them that you've moved out of the room, and that's that. You don't want to hear any more crap about it. If they can't accept it, and if he continues harassing and assaulting you, you will escalate by calling your mother and telling the school counselor. It sounds like going nuclear, but don't pussyfoot around sexual harassment and assaults. You don't want it to get normalized in your home. And Vix Harlow says, not the asshole. You're uncomfortable with his behavior. It's better to allow you to have your own space than to try and make this a homophobia issue. Most everyone would be weirded out by someone just being openly nude in front of them regardless. The incompatibility in comfort levels is a reason in and of itself. True, and it sucks the way the mum responded about locker rooms. It's a completely different situation. Even if he wasn't gay, it's still straight up sexual harassment to touch people's laps and expose yourself to them without consent. And now onto the update. Okay, so I know it hasn't been that long, but crap kinda hit the fan this week. So thanks everyone for supporting me through this, because I felt like I was losing it with everyone at home, making me feel like crap. It helped a lot that people understood what I was dealing with and didn't make me feel bad for feeling the way I do. Some comments were saying I needed to tell my mum about what was going on, since she didn't know, even though I felt bad about it. A day after I posted, I told her. First about the way Steven was acting with me, and then how they were all giving me crap about being homophobic since I decided to move out of my room after he came out. She was pissed the F off. She told me to put my dad on, and I could hear her yelling at him from the phone when I gave it to him. My dad wasn't happy, and they were arguing for like a half hour. But he said he was sorry for not really doing much for me about Steven, and my mum says she doesn't want me there. 'Cause of Steven, and she also doesn't like that I'm sleeping in the basement, and doesn't know if it's even safe for me down there since it's an old basement. My mum told me she wants me over there with her, but only if I want to. School is online, and I don't see any of my friends anyways, so it wouldn't be a big deal if I stayed with her. I talked to my dad, and then to my mum. He was mad that I wanted to go with her, but he didn't tell me anything else. She drove all the way back here and picked me up on Thursday. Been here at the hotel she's staying at since Friday. It's more chill, to be honest. I'm here alone most of the time since my mum has to work all day, so I like the privacy. I've talked to my dad, and he says they're going to talk to Steven. I don't know how that's going to go when my stepmom was still all defensive about him when I left, but we'll see, I guess. I don't know for how long we'll be here. I think another 2 to 3 months, but at least I'm not there at my dad's for right now with all those uncomfortable vibes. So yeah, that's all I wanted to say. since everyone was really helpful about what I should do and how I don't need to be dealing with that crap. Now in the comments, Grigor50 says, "Wow, that Steven guy sure is weird. I wouldn't blame you for wanting to get away from him, and I'm gay myself." Blardy frickin' blah says, "Good update. Glad to hear that you got away from that situation. I don't know what country you're in, but I would guess that 16 is old enough to legally stay at your mum's if you want to. Personally, I wouldn't feel comfortable going back into that mess for a long time, and that's assuming your dad has an epiphany and realizes how severely he failed as a father. Keep in mind that if you do ever want to see your dad, you can make plans to go out and do things with him without actually being at his house and without Steven being around. Well, post-pandemic anyway." And OP says, "It wasn't a custody thing. It's because my mum had to work out of the state for a few months, and so I stayed with my dad full-time until she got back. My parents are talking about what to do when we get back though, because she doesn't want me around Steven at all. So I guess we'll see how that goes. I don't want to go back to that house either." Well, you're 16, and can legally decide who to stay with full-time. And Johnny9K says, "Huge props for your mum. Never forget that she instantly defended you and dropped everything to come get you. Glad things are going good now." And OP replies, "For real. She did the whole 10-hour drive getting there and then another going back. And is only sharing her personal peace and quiet time with you since she's at work all day. Seriously, OP, this is a good mum. Buy her some flowers, or at the very least, never forget this." And how did Steven react to you leaving? And OP replies, "He was just locked in the room the whole time. He's probably really embarrassed and he deserves it for how he's been treating you. Sorry nobody listened to you sooner, and I hope Steven gets a wake-up call for how inappropriate he's been. I feel like a lot of young gay guys have to learn the don't treat people like sexual objects lesson just a little bit later. Don't excuse him, and to be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if you didn't want to be around him at all anymore after that." And our next post is by user Birthday Party Post, titled, "Am I the asshole for asking my dad if the reason he missed my birthday was to be with his other family? Now, my parents divorced 3 years ago because my dad had an affair, and the lady got pregnant, and he left us to be with her and the kid. My sister and I hate him, but our mum still wants us to have a relationship with him, so we see him once or twice a month to make her happy. My sister and I turned 16 on Saturday, twins. We had a party in the park with our aunts, uncles, cousins, and grandparents from both sides of the family. And don't worry, we all wore masks. The only person who didn't come was my dad. He came over yesterday to drop off our present. I swear it was made for an 8-year-old. This was it, by the way, and said that he was sorry that he couldn't come to our birthday and that he was busy. He lost his job in May and has been sitting on his ass playing video games since because nobody's hiring, so I know he wasn't working. I asked him exactly why he couldn't come to our birthday, and he just said that he was busy. So I looked at him and asked if the reason that he missed our 16th birthday was because he wanted to be with his other family instead. He left without saying anything, and I've been banned from their house for being rude. Am I the asshole for asking my dad if he missed my and my sister's birthday because he'd rather be with his other family? And edit, he hates it when we call them his other family because he wants us to think of them as our family. He even tried for a while to get us to call his new wife Mum. Well, happy late birthday, OP. I'm sorry that your dad did this to you. I don't think you're an asshole for asking this question, in all honesty. He did cheat. He should have been at that birthday party. It doesn't seem like he's said sorry or apologized for it, and I can assume, through his actions of just playing video games all day and not looking for a job, he's not a very reliable person in general, and you can't rely on him to be honest about his motives, about what he was doing on your birthday, why he didn't come, but you can rely on him to just ignore you, ban you from their house, and be an asshole to you for looking for the truth. It's unfortunate that people like this exist in our world, and I'm sorry that your dad has to be one of those people. I truly am sorry, but I don't know what to say about that, besides screw him. Not the asshole, this isn't your fault. Now in the comments, Luna Little Blue says, not the asshole. You were not being rude, and he cheated. He has no right wanting you to see his other family as your own. Also, his priorities seem pretty set to me. I'm sorry that he felt upset that you asked him that, but it only confirms that it's probably true. You do not owe him anything, especially not politeness. He messed up, not you. Bayvation says, not the asshole. You're 16, you shouldn't be forced to have a relationship with him if you don't want to. You weren't banned for being rude. You were banned for being right and calling him out on his decision that he himself made. Just the idea of a parent banning their 16-year-old kid from their home is insane to me. He basically just opted out of parenting. He clearly hardly sees his daughter to begin with, and he says he's hurt that she would accuse him of choosing his other family over her. But his reaction is to estrange her further? A child? How the hell does that make sense? I agree. Can never understand how just because parents are not together, one can just choose to actually abandon their still a minor child like that because they hurt their feelings. Damn, teenagers can do that to their parents without a reason and still have a home, but in this case, they have seriously legitimate one. And info. Not the asshole either way, but did he call? Say anything like, oops, sorry for missing today, I'll swing by tomorrow. And OP says, no. I always hate it when parents act like this. You expected nothing and you still got disappointed. And now onto the update. So the visits with my dad have stopped. Instead, we spend those weekends with our grandparents, which is way better. My sister and I returned the dresses. My sister bought a jacket that she liked and I got shoes and makeup. When my dad found out that my sister and I weren't visiting anymore, he got mad. He said he didn't mean it when he said that I was banned and I need to have a relationship with my brother and sister. Yes, this was how my dad decided to announce that his wife is pregnant. He also thought that would be the right time to tell us that our sister would need our room, so when we visit, we would take the couch. He also wanted 50-50 custody. When our mum heard that he's giving away our room and wants to go to court for more custody, she lost it. She screamed at him about how irresponsible and selfish he is and told him that he'd be laughed out of court if he tried to get custody without us even having a bedroom there. I think he's still trying to go to court, but my sister and I don't like him and don't want to stay there anymore, and we don't have a room, so there's pretty much a zero chance we're going to have to stay there. Also, my mum introduced me and my sister to her boyfriend the other day, and he seems great. He really wants to get to know me and my sister individually, something my dad didn't even care to do. And he's so nice to us and my mum. They're talking about him moving in a few months. So even though my dad's a dick, I guess this story still has a happy ending. And edits, I just looked it up and we're in a state where there's no guarantee they'll take what we say into account and you legally can't refuse visitation. And updates, Dad's new wife talked him into converting the basement into 2 bedrooms and a bathroom for me and my sister, so we might have to go now. Now in the comments, Master Manipulation says, glad there's some happy ending there, and he would be laughed out of court. Why force a 16-year-old to share a room with a 2 to 3-year-old? No judge would be happy with that. Plus, you and your sister are 16. You can decide your own custody. And OP replies, he's not making us share a room with our half-brother. He wants us to sleep on the couch. Wait a minute, was that couch singular? Is he not only denying you and your twin a bed, but also expecting you to share a couch? And OP replies, yeah, it's a pull-out couch though, so he thinks it's perfectly fine. Yeah, he's crazy. I hate to be that guy, but it's likely that your dad is asking for 50-50 custody at this date to avoid paying child support. Or so he and his wife can have free babysitters. Probably both, especially since he's unemployed now. The great thing is, not only will he be laughed out of court, but if you ask the courts for your mum to have sole custody, he'll probably have to pay more. And Littlebit says, God, your dad sounds like the most embarrassing idiot ever. He doesn't even work and sits around playing video games all day, and that other woman desperately wanted to nab him? Good riddance. I'm so glad things worked out for the better for you guys and your mom. Right? Imagine how pissed off she must be. Congrats, you stole your man. Have a potato that does nothing but consume resources and impregnates you. Oh, and have fun spending part of your paycheck on his child support. Alright guys, that's the end of the video. Friendly reminder that I'm now posting daily on my second channel, Markee 2. If you want to laugh at memes with me, link is down in the description below. On phone, you just click that little arrow underneath the video. I also want to say thank you to all my channel members and Patreon subscribers. Your names are currently floating down the screen here, and I love to see all of you guys. Thank you for joining me on this journey. Thank you for supporting me. I really appreciate it. If you see yourself on screen, I want you to give yourself a big pat on the back for being amazing as always, and thank you for supporting me again. I do hope that you guys have a good day, night, sleep, whatever it is you're up to. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.